The idea for Snoozle came whilst I was at university, but I never really thought I'm going to turn that into a business. So Snoozle is a clock radio for a social generation, and we raised 100 grand within 9 hours again live on Europe's largest crowdfunding platform. So I was brand manager of Tesco Finest, I was band manager of the Neals, and I was trying to get Snoozle going. I mean, Tesco is big business.
Yeah.
International. Like, I used to love waking up and the news was about Tesco, and then I was going into the Tesco office. Like, that to me was exciting because it mattered. I can go and do something bigger and better for myself, where I know that I'm genuinely making a difference. And I was doing Snoozle as a side at that point. My dad somehow persuaded me and my two brothers to audition with him for Britain's Got Talent. Through 2015, auditioned in front of Simon Cowell and the Hippodrome. From that, I was then like, right, if I can get through an audition like that and have a good reaction, then I probably owe it to myself to do something with this idea that I've got. So a week later, I registered the business and put some money in to get an MVP.
Okay, welcome back to the Bayta podcast. I'm joined here by Mr. Phil Neale. Hello.
Hello.
How are you? You okay?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good. Right. So, do you want to introduce yourself? Sort of say what you're up to, and obviously, my podcast is mainly around startups, business, that sort of thing. So, do you want to introduce yourself and maybe the project that you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, cool. Hopefully, more than just a project.
Yeah.
My name's Phil. I'm now 28. My background is played a bit of professional cricket when I was younger in the academy at Warwickshire. Went to uni, came out, did marketing, and then just over a year ago, I went full time on my startup, Snoozle. So Snoozle is a clock radio for a social generation. So we're the only platform that lets anybody be the alarm clock of the people who follow them. So I've been doing that for about 14 months now, and that kind of kick-started when we crowdfunded at the end of 2017. And we raised 100 grand within 9 hours again live on Europe's largest crowdfunding platform. So that was a good experience, kind of put us on the map a little bit. And then since then, built the product properly because I had an MVP, but built it properly, launched, and then we've had some success, had a little bit of chart success as well in the App Store. So yeah, all looking good and positive, but a long way to go.
Yeah. Well, before we move on to Snoozle, we'll talk more about your business. On this podcast, I like to talk about the people behind it. Yeah. So let's take it back, and we're trying to maybe go back. What was your school life like? Were you particularly entrepreneurial or creative? And maybe just talk about some of your highlights of school or things that you think have driven you to where you are today. Yeah,
school life. I was quite a clever kid, so I got accelerated a year when I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 or something.
So you skipped a year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't like brilliant from an educational perspective, but I was good enough to get accelerated sort of thing. But when I was younger, I wanted to be an actor. So I always said, like, there's no way I'm having a desk job. I'm not doing a 9 to 5 sort of thing. So I wanted to be an actor. But then when I kind of hit my teenage years, I was smaller than other people. And I lost confidence, and then I got a few spots and one, which I have a little few today, but never mind. So I didn't want anyone looking at me, and it's difficult to be an actor if you don't want people looking at you. So kind of lost my confidence there, and then didn't really know what I wanted to do by the time I left school. Yeah. So I went and did a business degree.
In school, did you mainly study, theatre, drama, and
English,
or?
I did drama at GCSE.
Yeah.
And when I was 10, so primary school, whilst I was sitting my 11 plus exams, I was in Birmingham's main pantomime at the Alexandra Theatre. Yeah. Got paid £66 and 22p a week.
That's more than anyone that age was making, though.
Exactly, it was massive to me. And so I think that, to be fair, earning through that, and then earning through cricket when I was kind of 16, 17, 18, I loved earning my own money, but I wouldn't have said that I was entrepreneurial at that point.
More independent, then? That's what we'd probably say? Or?
I think it was just kind of, it felt quite grown up to earn money, even when you're 10 and you're like, oh, I've now got a bank account.
Yeah.
I've got a bit in it, and I had more than my 2 older brothers because they hadn't worked, as it were. So I think it kind of gave me the taste for that, but I wouldn't have said that I was entrepreneurial, no.
Let's talk about your cricket, because I don't think I know much about your sort of cricket history. So was it you were part of a team? So
yeah, so I was a wicket keeper. So I was a very good wicket keeper and a very average batsman.
Okay.
And so for my age, I was best in England. But then as a wicket-keeper batsman, like, you need to be more of a batsman now because it's more important to the team than wicket-keeping. So I think, I was in the Warwickshire Academy from the age of 16 through to kind of 19. At uni, I was part of Leeds Bradford UCCE, which is the academies at the unis.
Okay, yeah.
But it's there's 6 centralised ones, basically. Leeds is one of them. So that's a very high standard. It's first-class cricket place. You play against professional teams. And I think I had a choice to make where I could have either been a mediocre professional cricketer and then been dropped at kind of 26, 27, 28 and then start my career. But I knew that I didn't want to do that. And instead I thought, well, actually, cricket's taken me around the world a little bit, a few tours and whatnot.
Yeah. Where did you get to go on the tours?
Well, when I was 14, I went on a school exchange to Australia. When I was 18, in my gap year, I went and played cricket out in Australia again.
Nice.
At uni, I went to South Africa. And then kind of, one of the things with cricket as well, when you're 11 and 12 and you're playing for Warwickshire, and then you play Surrey, you get an overnight stay sort of thing, or you do a little tour of Surrey, Essex, Sussex, etc.
So you get used to that travelling.
Yeah, and it's just quite, again, it's quite a cool thing. I played men's cricket from the age of like 10, which I think you mature quite quickly, and it's not necessarily the banter, but you're surrounded by men, you're playing with men, and ultimately you're getting tested by men when you're batting, and they're trying to bounce you and hurt you and stuff.
So putting you in this sort of very deep end scenario push you to be better at the sport as well and in other areas.
And I think I had 2 older brothers as well, so I think I'd matured probably emotionally, not physically, hence the lack of confidence in my teenage years. I probably matured a bit quicker than I would have done had I not played cricket, but so it kind of opened me up to more experiences than just going to school, basically.
So do you have a particular competitive nature, do you think?
Yeah, in the same way that I think everybody who plays sport does. But I can let it come and go. I think I used to be, particularly with brothers, but now I think I see the competition that I'm in, because everyone's somewhat in competition with the world in some capacity. Yeah. So there's no direct competitor to Snoozle, but I keep thinking somebody will, or Alexa is a competitor, etc. But I see it more as long-term competition now, rather than, have to make sure that by this point I'm doing better than this person or this business, etc. Because I think you got to look longer term with it. So yes, I'm still very competitive, but it doesn't get to the kind of tit for tat sort of level.
Okay, so let's move on. So as you said before I cut you off, you went to Leeds University to do management, right?
Management marketing, yeah.
And what sort of inspired you to do this, and how did you find your time? Again, did you find more clarity in what you wanted to do through university, or?
So what the idea for Snoozle came whilst I was at university, but I never really thought I'm going to turn that into a business. So at university, I was more worried about, I was playing a lot of cricket with the academy, so some of those were like Friday, 5 a.m, you had to be in the gym sort of thing. So that, I had to build my social life around that. Yeah. And so they were my priorities ahead of actually going to uni. One thing I wish I'd have done more is go to absolutely every lecture, every seminar, because it's really social for a start.
And there's so many events that go on at universities as well. Yeah. Just go.
Exactly.
If in doubt, if you can't be bothered, just go.
And I was good at going to the social stuff. Yeah. But I was less good at going to the lectures and the seminars. Yeah. Obviously, seminars you had to because it was registered, and I'm not encouraging anyone to not turn up to lectures. So uni for me, I certainly wasn't really motivated. I was kind of enjoying uni life, enjoying going out, enjoying cricket and the social side that brings as well. And I hadn't thought beyond what I was going to do when I left.
Yeah.
When I left uni, I was ready to leave because I was sick of having no money. But I kind of thought, in general, I backed myself to land on my feet, but I hadn't applied for any grad schemes, hadn't done anything like that.
And this was coming up to your third year of university, or did you do a 4-year degree, or?
3 years. So I'd had a gap year before, and then by the time I was coming out of uni, I was just like, right, I'll get back to Birmingham where I've grown up, and I'll find a job. Yeah. And at that point, I remember going and speaking to people, because I had a decent network through cricket, and a kind of life mentor of mine introduced me to some people. And I remember saying, yeah, I want to work in, marketing, advertising, PR. And they were going, well, which one? I was like, it's all basically the same thing. And so I'd just done a management and marketing degree, and I didn't know the difference between those. Yeah. So I was very naive, but so the first job I got was working at an estate agent, because the owner of that was really well connected. So I said to her, can I work here for the summer if you introduce me to some marketing agencies around Birmingham? And she did, and that landed me my job. So I think that was probably the first entrepreneurial sort of thing that I did, where I was like, actually, if I go and do that with her, then she might be able to introduce me. Kind of thinking ahead. And
did she introduce you? So
yeah, she introduced me to a brilliant agency in Birmingham, and where I was for a year, and I hadn't appreciated how good they were for me in terms of an education, in terms of the opportunities they gave me, until I'd left, and I realised I'm light years ahead of where a lot of people my age are from a kind of business ready perspective. Sounds a bit arrogant, but it's true.
But like your commercial awareness was a lot more than
commercial awareness, kind of how to conduct myself, because it was so varied what I was doing, and so I was 22 at that point, and I'd pitched in front of kind of Samsung, Fulham Football Club, Marathon Bet, Nestle, like some really big brands. So my CV looked quite good as well, and I'd successfully pitched as well. So they'd given me a lot of exposure because they saw some potential in me. And so I think it wasn't kind of a typical first job where I didn't have any accountability or anything. It was going in and genuinely go pitch. Yeah. And pitching's a very good skill to have.
And do you think by this point your kind of teenage years insecurities had kind of... Are you still lingering on them? Because it seemed to go up and pitch and be confident like that.
No, when I went to uni, I'd made the conscious decision to fake my confidence, as it were. So, this sounds really arrogant, but at school, girls found me cute. I was young looking, but people were like, "Oh, he's good looking." And then when I went, but I was like, "Well, I've got 2 older brothers, so maybe it's just because, when you got older brothers, it kind of helps a bit socially, I guess." Yeah. So. And then when I went to uni and people thought that I was all right then, I was kind of like, well, I need to just pretend that I believe them, and then it might stick, and it did. And I made the conscious decision to myself that in any seminar that I did go to, etc., if there's a chance to stand up and speak, as in you have to do a group task, who's going to speak, everyone looks around, and I was like, I'm just going to do that. So you do that a fair few times. One, you realise it actually kind of puts you on the map from a social perspective, and
just within the university and
kind of girls there and whatnot. Just because it's in a room, but you look more confident when you do it, and if you crack a little joke, etc. And so I think when I left, and then I was going into pitches, I was quite comfortable speaking in front of people anyway. So my confidence by the end of uni was absolutely fine, because basically I faked it until
that's one thing that I will take and say to any university students listening, and I said this to the fresh reps that I work with the society. In any lecture or seminar, if you even just want to guess the answer, just put your hand up and do it. Yeah. You will get over the fear of I'm an idiot, I got it completely wrong. But that will progress way more than you think. That's the one small action I do genuinely believe that people can take, and it will massively change their university life and their life thereafter.
I agree. And it also uni is such a social time. You're surrounded within Leeds. Everyone's living in Hyde Park or Headingley. You're within 2-3 miles of every single person. And as you say, when you put yourself forward in a seminar and a lecture like that, nobody's going to think, "Oh, what an idiot." Nobody's going to think, "Oh, what a suck up," or anything like that. But it does give people a chance to them. They feel as if they know you a little bit because you've spoken, and they are aware of you, sort of thing. So it then makes any social interaction that you do have at a later date
a lot easier. Yeah.
So yeah, it's good advice.
Cool. So we're finishing up uni now, obviously. So you're did you manage to get a job in a marketing agency, or is it?
So finished uni without anything lined up. Spoke to a few people. Joined the estate agents in Birmingham. Just literally opening doors all summer. Quite a nice job. And then, but I was quite good at it. That was my first kind of dip into sales. Yeah. And then through that, joined the agency kind of it was like September time.
And then, so the biggest one, the biggest sort of stage in your career, obviously now you're running your own business, but in terms of maybe a name, so you joined Tesco, Tesco's Finest brand manager, right? Yeah, so the agency that I speak so highly of now, saying what a great education it was, I had absolutely zero intention the morning that I went in, but I resigned when they gave me a promotion. Right. Because there was a bit of a restructure within the agency. They promoted me but capped my commission. So I took that as a bit of a, well, I'm doing all right out of commission. So my dad loved the decision that I just made where I said, resign today. So it was a bit hot-headed, but I think that was where I'd got to in terms of kind of thinking, basically backing myself. So when I did that, I then backed myself to be a freelancer as a kind of freelance account handler, and it was. So because I'd been at what was probably, certainly at the time, the best agency in Birmingham, a lot of the smaller agencies that looked up to that agency wanted my experience of being within it. So it was actually quite easy, and I had a decent rep within Birmingham at that point within those kind of circles. So I found work quite easily, but working on my own terms a little bit more, so I could have a day rate, which inherently means that you can have more than a salary. Right, I see,
more. But I did know that I wanted to join, I used to say I want to join an international company that's a household name. Like I wanted a brand on my CV, or I wanted to work for a big brand.
Yeah, just get that experience in as well.
Yeah, I think it's because within an agency, you kind of dip in and out of business, your clients' businesses. So particularly as I was in business development, so kind of sales. Yeah. And I thought, well, if I'm working for a big company, then that I'll be able to actually see something through from start to finish, as it were. So yeah, I applied for 4 or 5 grad schemes. Pretty confident that I'd have a decent chance because I had the year's experience. Yeah. Had I applied fresh out of uni, I don't think I'd have got on. Ended up joining Tesco. So my first day at Tesco was 2 years after I'd graduated, but it was on the grad scheme.
But as you said, you had to go through the stages of developing your career, finding out which way you wanted to go to even get to that point. So how was your time at Tesco? Because obviously a massive UK retailer. Yeah. How was the corporate culture? Did you feel you fit in well? And what was it like behind the scenes a bit more? Yeah, so I accepted the job in February 2014 when Tesco was flying high, or seemingly flying high. And then I started in September 2014. And in that time, it had been the accountancy scandal. Oh, right, yeah. I think Horsegate in that time. Yeah. So Tesco was in a very different place when I joined to what it was when I accepted the offer. But that was a good thing, really, from a kind of starting your career within corporate. So I joined on the same day as the current CEO. Then it was a new CEO called Dave Lewis. He gets credit for the turnaround, but never mind. And so I got to see a brilliant kind of, I was spoiled, or we all were, people who joined at the same time, spoiled in seeing how a business has been doing stuff so badly, or so kind of lost sight of what they're doing, and somebody coming in and being like, right, back to basics, let's focus on the customer, let's do things right. Wasn't it at that time they had a bunch of international stores, I believe, and they cut back on a bunch of
so, and it's things that I mean, Tesco is big business, international. Like I used to love waking up and the news was about Tesco, and then I was going into the Tesco office. Like that to me was exciting because it mattered the sort of things that we're doing as a company.
You could see the severity of anything, your decisions that you make.
And so I had a really, really good education into big business, and from a kind of client side perspective, and also how a very, very good CEO kind of gets people on side, focuses on the things that actually matter.
Yeah.
So I think I was quite spoiled in that respect. Kind of a really good experience for me. So lots of people I got asked, oh, you escaped the corporate rat race, and I'm like, I hate the phrase corporate rat race, or like escape the 9 to 5, because 9 to 5
sound like an internet marketer.
Jobs, well, yeah, exactly. I'm not a fan of them. Sorry. Because I think a corporate job can be so good, like for work-life balance.
Yeah.
And Tesco, certainly in the 3 years that I was there, certainly care about employees. Like, your career development is top of the agenda whenever you want it to be. You do get all of the growth opportunities and days out where you're getting paid to literally be in training, etc.
Yeah.
I was brand manager of Tesco Finest at one point, and well, for most of it, and I was marketing or doing the brand for the beer, wines and spirits, and I was like, I don't really know much about wine, so Tesco paid for me to go into London for 10 weeks every Tuesday night.
Wow. Yeah.
And drink wine and get my level 2 qualification in that, because they do genuinely care about that. And that's the sort of thing which, I mean, I can't offer that as Snoozle now. I can't offer that to my employees because we don't have the money to do it.
But in time, I assume, you want to invest, and that's what keeps your employee retention, right?
Yeah, it's a whole cocktail of things, I think, and most of it I would say is how, like, the day-to-day is. I think you could trick yourself into thinking, oh, we pay all right and we do all these freebies, but actually if the employee doesn't feel as if they
fit into
really
the culture
and making a difference. So I'm really pro corporate, as in I'm pro Tesco certainly, which is my experience within it, but for me, I always felt as if I'd like to think I fitted in, but I did rub a few people up the wrong way because I hated playing the corporate game, as it were. And I know that sounds like I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but the corporate game being, you're actually just meant to do the sorts of things that your job is, because the big decisions that I wanted to be making are obviously made by people much more senior, much higher pay grade. And so I kind of felt like, no matter what I do, Tesco is so big, it's going to keep going along. I know every little helps, but it's not that I think I'm a bit special kind of thing at this point, and I can go and do something bigger and better for myself, where I know that I'm genuinely making a difference. And I was doing Snoozle as a side at that point.
So you were doing Snoozle on the side.
Yeah.
At what stage in your career at Tesco? Was it a couple years in, or?
No, so when I joined Tesco, I'd had the idea for ages. So I'd been, at this point in 2014, I had the idea in my final year of uni, 2011. So I'd been sat on the idea for 3 years. When I'd did a bit of interrailing before I joined Tesco, and I was telling girls as a chat up line, like, I've got this app and whatnot. I didn't have it, and so I was getting like, oh, that sounds really cool, and I was like, oh, maybe I could actually do something with it, etc. But I wasn't actually doing anything with it, just had the idea. So it was probably a few months into Tesco, so like 3 months into Tesco, my dad somehow persuaded me and my 2 brothers to audition with him for Britain's Got Talent. Mm-hmm. So
I was waiting to get onto this point.
But it's an important part of the kind of Snoozle story. So the last time I tried to sing, I was 14 and cried in a school play audition. And my dad's saying, come and do this. We found one song that we could just about get through. Oldest brother, good singer. Me and Dan, my other brother, could barely sing. Dad, good singer. So we're like, okay, we can just about get through this. And so February 2015, auditioned in front of Simon Cowell and the Hippodrome in Birmingham. And like, I think it's 2,500 people there or whatever, all on their feet at the end, like, we nailed it.
That must have been an amazing feeling.
It was, and this sounds ridiculous, but even though I knew our limited talent, I knew we were going to get that, because I didn't until kind of we were doing it on the day, and I was like, actually, if we do this right, and we kept everything simple, like brand name, the Neals, because that's what we are. What we're going to wear? Well, we've got a 60-year-old man, and I'm 24, and we've got a 26 and 28-year-old at that point. We can only wear a suit, like, we can't try and be too cool.
Yeah.
Like, let's just go. So we kept everything simple. We had a genuine story. People are going to like the fact that it's a family. And we sung quite nicely, to be fair.
Yeah.
So, and I said to my family beforehand, like, there's no point in us doing this unless we get a standing ovation, because if you don't, it's never going to change your life. And I was just thinking, like, I don't see how people aren't going to like this, because it's really natural within a slightly contrived, like, people always say, oh, boy bands, well, it's all been put together by a manager, etc., whereas we were quite clearly just four amateurs on their singing. So from that, I was then like, right, if I can get through an audition like that and have a good reaction, then I probably owe it to myself to do something with this idea that I've got. So a week later, I registered the business and put some money in to get an MVP, and then put some more money in, and a little bit more money in. But the money that we're making, so we got through to the final of Britain's Got Talent, but the money that we're making when we came off it from singing, all kept our jobs, but over a weekend, etc., I was putting into bootstrapping Snoozle on the side. So I was brand manager of Tesco Finest, I was band manager of the Neals, and I was trying to get Snoozle going. Yeah. So I had quite a lot on my plate, and I was living in Hertfordshire, driving up to Birmingham or wherever we had to gig. So it was quite a busy time, and I lost quite a lot of weight through it, and I didn't have that. So I was probably working myself a little bit too hard, but
you kind of have to do that in those early stages, right? You have all these opportunities come at you, you seized it at that time. With the Neals, for example.
Yeah, I mean, the Neals was our dad's dream that then was like, well, we'd be silly not to give it our best shot sort of thing. So, it was good fun, loads of good memories with my dad, brothers, etc. It's nice to go. You got a gig in Wales, so you go and you have an overnight stay, and you're just doing a bit of singing that inherently when we're doing it regularly, we enjoyed it. Now, because I haven't done it for ages, I don't suffer from anxiety, but I would feel very, very, very nervous. Yeah. But once you're in the flow, it's good fun, and we've got good reactions, and we never tried to be anything that we weren't. Yeah. We knew we weren't One Direction, and we put on good shows. So it gave me a lot of confidence and a bit of money to get going with Snoozle.
Perfect. And just quickly, we've got to move on to Snoozle. Yeah. But is there anything hidden or anything about behind the scenes of Britain's Got Talent that you think you could share that not everyone realises actually goes on?
No, because there's a lot of things that when you're going through it, you don't realise what's going on. So it's a TV show first and foremost, and you have to. Or we were certainly very aware, and I was probably too aware, and I probably took away from the fun that it was all fun, but we were so conscious of making sure that we were always doing the right thing that we're so nervous and uptight about it all. Because if we're doing it now, having a bit of performing background now, because we'd performed for 2-3 years, it would be a very different experience for us where we could relax a bit more. Whereas we were like, can we even remember words to a song? Like, can we sing anywhere near in tune? Yeah. Like, genuinely, the first performance we've ever done was in front of Simon Cowell. The second was in front of a TV audience of 8 million, and the third one was in the final in front of 15 million. So you have to. We were just conscious that we were going to be completely respectful to the show, as it were. Like, we know what we are, we know what we're not. And as a slightly cheesy family band, they wanted to try and make us a very, very cheesy family band. Right. Okay. So we had to be very careful with that. And a lot of people go, "Oh, they twisted what I said." Can absolutely happen. But there's one bit where, as accidental band manager, I didn't like the route that the questions were going, so I just put my hand in front of my dad's face and I was like, we don't need to go down this route. Yeah. Because they can't use that then. Yeah. And I think that's where, when you're being interviewed on TV, as you might know, you repeat the question back. So they're not telling you what to say, but they will say, if it's like in a positive way, "Oh, Phil, it must be fantastic singing with your dad." So you go, "It's fantastic singing with my dad." But they can also use that in using language that you wouldn't necessarily always use. Like, you must have been devastated when Simon said this. Then you go, "I was devastated when Simon said," and then you're just repeating back. And because you're a bit nervous in front of camera, you can fall for it. But they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not trying to trick you, because it's still up to you to say what you want.
Of course, but it's slightly coercive.
Well, they know what the show that they want to make is, and they're brilliant at doing it. Hence why they have 15 million people. And if you're going on that platform and you get the legal documents that are this big, you have to sign it. There's no point going, I don't like this word, because there are millions or hundreds of thousands of people who want to be on the show, and they're giving you a platform, and you've got to be respectful to that and be grateful that they're doing it, I guess. So.
Perfect. So, we must move on swiftly. Let's talk about Snoozle, because we'll talk about your first fundraising round. So that was with Seedrs, the crowdfunding platform. That's how I met you. I met you at the WBS Shard event about crowdfunding.
Yeah.
So how did you come across Seedrs, and how did you choose actually your crowdfunding platform that you wanted to go for?
Yeah.
And up at this point, how big was Snoozle?
Yeah. So I quite like putting dates on things, because it kind of shows. Jeff Bezos of Amazon says, Amazon was an overnight success. It only took me 13 years. Or something like that. I don't want to misquote Jeff Bezos, but he says something like that. And it's true of all, not that we're an overnight success yet, but stuff always takes a bit longer. And if I could change anything, it would be I'd have got going much faster and kind of gone all in. But would I have had the money, the confidence, the skills? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I registered the business in 2015, and I don't mind putting numbers on it because it was out there when I crowdfunded anyway. So I went with 10 grand of my savings to an agency and said I need to build an MVP where I can record a voice note, send it to somebody else, and that plays as their alarm.
Yeah.
So absolute basic, that's what it needs to do. Had that, good agency, they built this app, but it didn't look anywhere near ready to release, in my opinion. I should have released it then, because you should always just get it out there, try and get 5, 10, 15 users, work with them to understand how people are using it. But I didn't want to. So then I was saving up money and putting more and more in. And it got to 2017. I'd just been number 6 in the charts with the Neals, because I convinced Tesco to back our debut single. And I was thinking, I can do some quite big things, like when I put my mind to it, and I can think outside the box, and if I can hack the charts in that way, then maybe I can hack this app and get it going. I was driving along to a Tesco meeting, and I was listening to a Gary Vaynerchuk podcast.
Classic.
And somebody asked him, and it was Chattanooga, or I'm not sure of the pronunciation, but somebody asked him from the audience, what's the next big thing? And he said, I can almost say it verbatim, he said, voice, I'm obsessed, and in particular how it's going to play a part in the morning
always going
routine.
on about Alexa skills and
and how it's going to play a part in the morning routine, and I'm convinced we're going to wake up and listen to 7 to 11 minutes of content, and I'm trying to figure out how I can be part of that. My voice, Gary, is your daily business motivation. And I was driving, and I had this app on my phone that I'd put, by this point, about 20 grand into, and I was like, if Gary Vaynerchuk is saying that, somebody is going to do it. And I was kind of heart beating, thinking he's basically describing Snoozle. In my head certainly was. And so I was like, right, I need to go full time on this. I need to actually explore it properly. So I was about to resign, literally typing out my resignation letter. And then an all-staff email came out from the CEO, booking in a meeting. So I've been there 3 years by this point. I've already been through 2 rounds of redundancy. I know what an all-staff email means. It means there's some redundancies coming up. So I was like, brilliant, I'm going to get, there's going to be voluntary redundancy, I'll take that, I'll get a little payout, that kickstarts me on my way. So I thought I better wait. So rather than resign then, I better wait for it. Didn't get redundancy, which was a bit of a shame. So I resigned there and then. But during that time, I was planning my crowdfunding campaign, basically. And so I left in 2017 September and crowdfunded in October. But I've been doing the work that summer to get my business plans in order. So in terms of that as an experience, crowdfunding, it's not, a lot of people think, you create a video, you put it on there, and then loads of people come and chuck money at you. But you have to go live with 20% at least already funded. Because people don't want to invest in something with zero. And it also it's very good practice for you as an entrepreneur and as a business, because you have to actually find people who are willing to put it in.
Yeah.
And I consciously didn't want to go to family, whether they would or not have done. I didn't want to go to family and friends. I wanted to get, basically, because if I can't get investors to invest in it now, then maybe it's not as good an idea as I thought it was.
You were
I've
getting
got a lot
users
of work
to use
to
it.
do.
Yeah.
So you have to do your private round, as it were, with a view of crowdfunding. And I think that nobody turned me down for investment, which was good. And they say you've got to speak to 100 before anyone does it, before anyone says yes. But I never asked anyone for investment, so that's the key thing.
Yeah.
I only ever asked people who I thought maybe they've got some money, but ultimately the people who you think have got money are probably the people who you think are good at business.
Yeah.
And so I was asking for their opinion on my incomplete business plan, even though it was about version 38 and I'd refined it as much as I possibly could. And asking for feedback on it meant they know that you're looking to raise money. At very least, they're not going to feel awkward going, oh, I'm not looking to do this. They can give you a bit of feedback, or they can say, actually, I'm interested in getting involved.
And help you out.
Yeah. And it just kind of, it's not tricking them. It's literally, you are just asking for feedback, and if they want to get involved, they will.
Yeah.
But it means, particularly if you are going, and I didn't, but if you are going to family, friends or something to try and kickstart that, then it removes that awkwardness of them having to reject, I guess.
Yeah.
Or not having to.
No, I get you. So you raised, how quickly was the
So
raise?
we raised 100 grand. So we had more pledged, but we only took the 100 grand.
Yeah.
So we hit our target within 9 hours of going live.
Wow.
So I used to say it's the fastest ever crowdfunding campaign, but somebody's told, because that's what Seedrs told me at the time, but it might be the fastest Seedrs have had. Because I think Monzo Bank did like 90 million.
I covered this on one of my series on my channel, and I think it was in a few hours that their total raise was done in about 2 days, but in a few hours they raised something like 17 million or
exactly
which is nuts.
And that's the thing, I always have to put a caveat in. Yes, we did it very fast, but actually 100 grand is a tiny raise. So I mean, we could have raised a lot more, and we had money pledged, and we took it down. And part of the reason you do crowdfunding is you want the marketing exposure.
Exactly.
And then when you take it up and down within a few hours, it's, well, did I get the exposure?
Yeah.
But it was good because it showed that people got it and thought, yeah, there is something in this. And even though it's, might be somebody going, well, here's 2 grand because it's worth a punt. That's what we were literally showing. We had an MVP, we had 1,500 downloads, and active users were about 15. And we're very honest about that, and I knew 14 of them. So, it was a good experience. And I think we used crowdfunding in the right way, like very fair valuation. We're genuinely just trying to get this idea off the ground and give us a chance to prove that it's going to work. And hopefully we've done that.
Awesome. So very briefly, just because we have to head off in a second, let's hear a quick rundown of where Snoozle's at today and what you're involved with. I think you mentioned last time working with Gymshark now. Yeah.
So in terms of where we're at, so we set out to prove acquisition. So I follow the ARA model. So acquisition, activation, retention, referral, revenue. And I think that's for non-revenue generating business at the minute, like us, users are our complete KPI.
Yeah.
So from an advert that I designed for free on Keynote, and I'm not a designer, we get 3p a click. And I genuinely don't think that there are many businesses or brands or concepts in the world that could get
really
that.
Low.
So our cost per acquisition is under 10p.
Wow.
To get an actual sign up.
Yeah.
So we know if we want to test something on the homepage of our app, we could put 100 quid behind an advert on Instagram and get 1,000 new people in a completely live environment coming in and testing it.
Yeah.
And we can then see, well, did it increase engagement, etc.
Yeah.
So we've proven that somebody gives us 100 grand to put behind the advert, we should get 1 million. Obviously there's a bit of saturation and whatnot, but ultimately there's virality built in.
Yeah.
So what I can now comfortably say is, and we've spent barely any money, we still have money left, and we're now over a year in.
Yeah.
And as a burn rate, it's 4 grand a month.
Okay.
So every month we need 4 grand to keep going.
Yeah.
So on next to no money, on absolute budgets, doing everything ourselves, we've proven that the world wants this and that it's popular. But the job that we've got to do is show that we can make it habitual.
Yeah.
So this isn't a kind of a novelty. Oh, that's quite nice.
Yeah.
And we've got plenty of other features, from falling asleep to staying asleep to waking up. But really, I think our kind of silver bullet is not silver bullet. There's no such thing. But our holy grail, as it were, is being a platform for influencers to wake up their fans. But in fact, not influencers, content creators.
Yeah.
So whether that's celebrities, whether that's social media, YouTubers, etc. People who are good at creating content, who want to engage their fans in a new way, kickstart their day, some positive mental health in there. That to me feels like the holy grail for us.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit chicken and egg. We need the users before the kind of players that we want to get on. Yeah. So we're about to go through our second round, which is exciting, and that's got to be like, we've proven that we can do things on a budget. And now we've got to move much faster, because we've done very good things with the money that we had, and we've treated it and not bought a single coffee with it, etc. But yeah, we need to raise again, move faster, and ultimately start agitating and getting on the same, getting on the radar of the big players like Instagram and Snapchat.
Awesome, fantastic. I could literally sit here and speak to you forever and go into the super small details, but we're going to finish the main bit there, and I'm just going to give you some quick fire questions.
Awesome.
So just simple answers. Biggest person who's influenced you?
I probably would say, from a kind of Gary Vaynerchuk from a mindset perspective.
Yeah. I agree that a lot of people slate Gary Vaynerchuk. And I do understand a lot of it now that I listen to is very repetitive, but it did kick me up the arse to actually do a lot of stuff.
But also he acknowledges self-awareness is a big thing that he says is important, and he says I'm repetitive because he doesn't overcomplicate things. And the time that he stops being repetitive is when he's searching for new messaging.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually his messaging is very straightforward, and it's all about doing. And certainly startup, like numbers, me telling you cost per acquisition, etc., that sort of stuff, you can build a brand and you can go, oh, we've learnt this, etc., but if you don't have those numbers in place, then it doesn't mean anything. If you're just always doing stuff behind closed doors or whatever. So.
Yeah. Favourite music artist right now?
Ed Sheeran's such a cliche. Actually, I'm going to go for Rain Bickley. You won't have heard of me yet.
No.
But he is good. He is so good. He's been producing kind of behind the scenes a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think he's just about to come out and start doing his own stuff. But he
I'll check him out.
Very, very good.
Okay. Next one. If you could speak to 3 people, dead or alive.
Dwayne Johnson.
Yep.
Because he did the Rock Clock, and Snoozle is better. And he's just an absolute legend. Jamila Jamil, so Tahani in The Good Place, if you've watched that, and if you haven't, you should. Because I think she is right bang on the money in terms of what social media needs, and I think she's doing the right sorts of things. It's a tough one. Probably, I'm going to go Steve Jobs, just because he would be. Well, I'm wearing a polo neck, so I'm channeling him. Yeah, Steve Jobs.
Short or long Bitcoin?
Short or long?
Yeah, so buy or sell?
I do not understand crypto well enough to have an opinion,
Okay.
So I steer clear of it because I just don't get it well enough. And to me, it feels like a fad. I think blockchain is going to change the world, but I don't know whether cryptocurrency or which one is going to.
Fair enough. Audiobook or real book?
Audiobook.
And just lastly, to finish it off, recommend one book for the listeners.
So I'm not a big book reader, which I should be. So I'm going to have a bit of a cop-out and go for the Gary V audio experience, because I think books are being replaced by podcasts. And I think that's a healthy, positive thing.
Perfect. Yeah, I'd recommend that too.
Yeah.
Phil, thank you so much for coming on.
Cheers.
We'll have to do another one because there's so much more to talk about. But
sounds good.
Awesome.
Cool.